Everyone, I welcome you all to this video. And today in this video, we are going to discuss about some other DAX functions. So let's expand the data pane. And first of all, we will be creating some measures. So I will create a new measures table. So I will simply click here on enter data under the home tab. And I will name this table as measures table 2. Measures table 2 and load. All right. Now I will simply right click on measures table 2 and I will click on new measure. So we can further expand this formula bar and let's name this measure as AND function. So the first function that we are going to discuss about is AND function. So on the right hand side of equal to, we can simply write and then we can specify the conditions. So let's say we write 5 is greater than 2, comma, 7 is greater than 3. So this AND function will return true as the output only if both the conditions are true, right? So I will simply press enter and then collapse, and then we will expand the visualizations pane. We'll simply click here on card visual and this will create a blank card for us. I will further resize this card, and having this card selected, I will simply click here on, I'll check this box before AND function in measures table 2, and you can see that the output of this AND function is true because both the conditions that we specified were true. So 5 is greater than 2 and 7 is greater than 3. Even if any one of the condition will become not true, then the output will change to false. So let's see what happens if we change this 2 to 12. So since the first condition is false, now press enter. You will see that the output of AND function changed to false, right? So that was about AND function. Similarly, we have other function that is OR function. So I will simply right click on measures table 2, new measure. All right. And let's name this measure as, OR function. Then on the right hand side, we can write OR, press tab key, and let's say we specify the condition 5 is greater than 2, comma, 7 is greater than 13, and close the bracket. So OR function will give you the output as true, at least if any one condition is true, right? So I will simply press enter. Then collapse to single line. Then I will click here on this AND function card visual. Then I will click on format your visual, general, effects, and I will add a border to it. Now let's click anywhere on the blank area of the canvas, and then click on this AND function card visual again, Control C, Control V, move the newly created card visual to the right, remove this AND function from fields bucket, and simply check this box before OR function. So you can see that OR function shows output as true because 5 is greater than 2, although 7 is not greater than 30, but since 5 is greater than 2, so at least even if one condition is true, so OR will give the output as true, right? So that was about the OR function. Now let's discuss about NOT function. So new measure. Let's rename this as NOT function. This function will basically reverse the output of AND and OR function, and let's see how it happens. So we will write NOT, press tab key, then inside the bracket, let's write and we have 5 is greater than 2, comma, 7 is greater than 3. Close the AND function, close the NOT function, press enter. Collapse to single line. Click here on the blank area on the canvas. Click here on the OR function card visual, Control C, Control V. Move the newly created card visual to the right. Remove OR function from fields bucket and check this box before NOT function. So you can see that the not function gave you the opposite output of what the AND function would have given you, because 5 is greater than 2 and 7 is also greater than 3. Both the conditions are true. So AND function written inside not will give true, but not will make it false. So that's why the output is false. Similarly, you can experiment with OR function as well. So let's say if inside the not function, we will use OR function. And here you can see, since both the conditions are true, so your OR function should return true, but again, your NOT function will give the output as false. So if I'll press enter, so again, the output remains the same for NOT function, that is false, right? So that's how NOT function works. Now let's discuss about if function using an example. So I'll simply right click on measures table 2, new measure. All right. Yes. So let's name this measure as if function. And on the right hand side of equal to, we can write if, press tab key, and let's specify a condition. Let's say we have written 5 is greater than 2. And then you have to specify that what should be the output if the condition that you have provided is true, and what should be the output if the condition that you have provided is false. So we can simply provide true and false functions as the outputs. So we have true and false. True and false functions are also DAX functions in Power BI. So we will simply close the bracket, press enter, collapse to a single line, click here on the blank area on the canvas, then click on the not function card visual, Control C, Control V, move the newly created card visual to the right. All right. And this is the fourth one, is the newly created card visual that I've selected so far. And you can just simply remove this not function from the fields bucket. And then you can simply check this box before if function. And you can see that the output is true, because we have specified that if the condition provided by us, that is 5 is greater than 2 is true, then you should return the output as true, else false. In place of true or false, we can write yes or no as well. So I'm removing this true or false, and I'll say that if the condition provided by us is true, then return yes, else you can return no. So you can write it in double quotes, press enter. So now you can see that the output for if function has changed to yes from true. All right. So these were some of the functions that we have discussed. Let's discuss about one more function, that is date diff function. So I'll again right click on measures table 2, new measure. Let's name this function as date diff function. On the right hand side, we can write date diff, press tab key, and now you need to provide 2 different dates and you need to provide the interval. So this function will basically give you the difference between those 2 dates. So I will further use date function inside date diff function to provide start and end date. So let's say I will write date. Then let's say I want to find out the difference between 1st January 2022 and 1st January 2023. So 2022, 1st January. Then again, I'll use the date function, press tab key, 2023, 1st January, close the second date function, comma, provide the interval. Let's say we want to find out the difference in terms of year, press tab key, close the date diff function, press enter. Now click here anywhere on the blanket on the canvas, click here on this if function card visual, Control C, Control V, move the newly created card visual here, and then remove this if function from the fields bucket and check this box before date diff function. And you can see that since there's a difference of 1 year, so this shows you output in terms of year as 1 year. If I'll further click on date diff function, let's say we want to change the interval from year to days. So in place of year, we can write day, press tab key, press enter, and you can now see that in place of 1 year, it shows 365 days. we can change the interval from day. We can write months. Press tab key, press enter. So you can see that the difference in terms of months is 12 months. Now again, click here on the blank area on the canvas. Now let's discuss about one more function, that is switch function. But in order to understand switch function using an example, let's open the table view. And here we have a table by the name example. And this is the data that we have. So you can see that we have certain entries for January and February, March and April. And we have two columns, that is sales price column and cost price column. Let's say we want to represent the sum of cost price for different months. And there will be cases, or there are cases where you can see that cost price is basically blank or cost price is not available for certain months. So wherever cost price is not available for certain months, in its place, sum of sales price should be shown. So if the cost price is available, then sum of cost price should be shown. If cost price is not available, then in that case, sum of sales price should be shown. So we can achieve it using switch function. Let's see how. So first of all, let's go back to the report view and I will right click on this example table, new measure. It might take some time. All right. Let's expand this. And in place of measure 2, let's name this measure as switch function. On the right hand side, we can write switch. And then in the expression, we can write true, comma, shift enter. Now we will provide the condition. So we want to check that if our sum of cost price column from example table is greater than 0, then in that case, let's shift enter. All right. Is greater than 0, then in that case, we want the output to be equal to sum of your cost price, else, shift enter, comma, else sum of sales price from the same table should be written. So sum of sales price from the same table should be written and then close the switch function. Press enter. Okay, so this is already in use. We will have to provide some other name. All right, so simply click on close and we can name it as switch function 1. Press enter. All right, further collapse it to straight line. I'll click here on the blank area on the canvas. Then I will create a blank table. So this is the table that we have created. Let's further resize this table. And let's say on this table, we want to represent different months. Then we have different sales price. Then we have cost price. And then we will represent switch function 1 that we created. So here you can see that wherever we have sum of cost price available, so in switch function 1 column, cost price is there. Like for example, for February, we have 25. So 25 is available in switch function 1. Similarly, for March, we have 102. So in switch function 1 column, we have 102 available. But for January and April, since we are not having sum of cost price available, so that's why switch function 1 consists of sum of sales price, right? For April and January both. So for April, we have 665 and then for January, we have 845. So these were some of the functions that we have discussed in this video. We will meet in the next session. We'll discuss about more DAX functions. Till then, thank you. Bye-bye.